There is a fascinating story just coming out in today's Telegraph, where Bridget Phillipson, the one of the education, the Secretary of State for Education, and also the Minister for Women and Equality, has said that she's referred to the plan of the Labour government to impose VAT on private school fees, which is described as a tax raid. And she has said that schools should be prepared for this change. She says they should already have been prepared for this change. She's signalled the government's plan to impose tax on private school fees and will be rolled out earlier than planned. It had thought that this tax would take place in September at the earliest, but now Labour is believed to be targeting a start date in January. It's intended to fund 6,500 new teachers in the state sector. The term tax raid is used in the article to describe the policy, reflecting its contentious nature and the anticipated backlash. The description highlights concerns over a potential exodus of pupils from private schools into the state sector, further increasing class sizes due to the increased costs of private education. The comments section beneath includes a range of reactions, from calls for legal action to critiques of the policy, its ideology, and its implementation timeline. The idea, says Martin Benson, that private schools have had ample time to prepare for Labour's tax raid, is muddled thinking. She's in charge of education, says Martin Benson. OMG, there's an acronym for you. And to that apparent planned pandering to feral children and their parents, I fear for my granddaughter's future. Well, maybe. But you know, the important thing in this process is to focus on the future of education. I don't think that is what the Labour Party is doing, in the same way as I don't think the previous Secretary of State for Education, Gillian Keegan, had any real interest in education. Education needs to change. We have new tools which were rolled out during the COVID pandemic, and now we put them back in the box as if they don't really belong in the classroom. We should be making use of digital media. We should be configuring the way teachers respond and react in a classroom. There are three things a teacher does: they inspire, they moderate and mark, and they inform. Of those three things, the only one that teachers seem to be doing, in my experience, is the third, to inform. And they inform rather more poorly than many students can access information themselves. Students are quicker on the internet than teachers. So teachers are often presenting second-rate information, are often in handouts, and often in relative silence. It would be better to switch on a dedicated internet source that will provide that information, that will provide better focused information for the topic, so that teachers can concentrate on doing the two things which ideally they're trained for and ideally they do better, which is to inspire. And that is something that has often been jettisoned. Teachers at every level should be there as an inspiration, an icon of excellence, an icon of research and ambition and interest in education and abstract thought. And then they should be motivating and guiding students. I think if the idea that the desire to produce information was jettisoned in favour of getting that information from buying in the information, for example, in a series of programmes, then teachers could focus on their students rather than focusing on preparing the next lesson. And maybe that way we could reduce the number of teaching assistants, or those teaching assistants themselves could get on with things with their real duty. At the moment, teaching assistants often end up practically teaching the class, while the teacher themselves, the teacher himself, herself, is often forced into a 40-minute, 1-hour process of catching up on bureaucracy, while the teaching assistant is actually maintaining the class. It's all gone dreadfully wrong. Too much bureaucracy, not enough help, and class discipline takes precedence over the role of a teacher as an inspiration. And it takes precedence over marking and moderating and guiding students. Students are there to be nurtured, and we should we should set one goal for all students, and that is excellence, their own excellence. Excellence is the ambition. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to be getting a top grade, but everybody's going to get the top grade they can achieve, rather than being dismissed as quiet, or as disruptive, or as unchallenged. We need a better education system. I propose when I might try and interview a few people over the next few months to try and articulate this a little bit better. But simply hiring in, or simply teaching, putting in adverts for more teachers to come into training, is not the solution. The solution is to change the way we do education. And those people who are committed to education, even teaching assistants, can be raised up to being teachers in their own right, particularly if they're supported by a significantly more dynamic use of internet resources which are specially tailored for the classroom at every level of education. That goes all the way from primary school, by the way, all the way up to university. We need to change the model, and we need to make sure. So with the model which I'm proposing, it would be perfectly possible to have 2 or 3 different subjects going on in a classroom. Variants of a subject, depending on the programs which are imported and paid for by the schools.